Imagine for a second, just sit with this. Imagine you could pay $500 a month to simply turn off reality,
Right.
to literally rent a fake world, put on a headset, and just convince yourself you're perfectly happy. So you never actually have to look at the mess of your real life ever again.
I mean, it's the ultimate subscription service, really, escaping yourself.
Exactly. Would you pay it? Because welcome to the deep dive, and today we're looking at what happens to the human mind when the answer to that question is yes.
Yeah, and, looking at this massive stack of materials we have scattered here.
It's quite a stack.
It really is. And just listen to that rain outside. It's hitting the glass so hard. Just this steady, heavy drumming.
It's perfect, honestly. It's a Sunday afternoon, and there's absolutely nowhere else we need to be. We've just got this one lamp on in the corner, throwing shadows across this slightly messy room.
Yeah, a couple of cheap microphones set up on the rug.
Right? No clock on the wall, no agenda, no rush, just time. And you're sitting right here on the rug with us.
It really feels like, I don't know, it feels like 1996.
Yes.
That specific kind of Sunday where the world outside just sort of stops demanding things from you, where there's no internet constantly refreshing in your pocket, no algorithm telling you what to think.
You just finally have the space to look at what's directly in front of you.
Exactly. And what we have in front of us today is, well, it's an intensely intimate, frankly bizarre collection of materials.
It doesn't feel like a standard research file at all.
No, not even close. It feels like we found a dusty shoebox hidden under the floorboards of some abandoned house.
It really does. It's got this
Yeah.
physical weight to it. Just looking at what's scattered here on the floor, I mean, there's this fragmented kind of raw sci-fi short story.
Yeah, and that massive spiraling transcript.
The Dream Logic one, it's impossibly dense. It reads like a diary or a dialogue about altered realities.
Right, and then we have these highly experimental pieces of narrative fiction.
The ones exploring grief,
Yeah.
literally breaking the grammatical rules of how a story is even told.
Yeah, and mixed in with all of that paper, there are these two physical photographs.
Those photos, they look like they were taken on old 35mm film.
Yeah, maybe decades ago or maybe just yesterday, but processed in a dark room to intentionally feel like a memory.
They're so sun-drenched and nostalgic, these painfully golden hour pictures of a woman on a beach.
And our mission today isn't just to, summarize what's written on these pages.
Right, we aren't just doing a book report here.
No, we are going to try to figure out what all these totally disparate things have in common.
Because sitting here in the quiet, reading through them, I get this, this hesitant, secretive feeling. Like they're all desperately trying to map the exact same hidden territory.
Space between the masks we wear.
Yes, the waking world masks. The performances you and I put on every single day just to get through a shift at work or a dinner party.
And the raw, completely unedited truth that lives underneath that mask.
It's the tension between the curated self and the subterranean self.
Uh-huh.
What happens when the performance actually drops?
I think the best place to start untangling this is with that sci-fi short story.
Yeah, happy enough.
Because it takes this idea of the curated self and makes it terrifyingly literal. And the author left these incredibly vulnerable notes at the end.
Oh man, the author's notes, that caught my eye immediately. They literally typed all in caps with a bunch of parentheses, I-C-C-C-K-K-K.
And I am not that good at writing.
Which is so raw, like who leaves that in the final draft? But the premise they built is what totally hooked me. I mean, $500 a month, that's the price in this story, right? For the happiness machine.
Yes, the Bliss VR unit. And we meet these two characters, Nick and Faye. And that $500 price point is so brutally specific.
It's not $1 billion.
Right. It's not impossibly expensive like a luxury yacht. It's the price of a car payment.
It's an accessible, middle-class, monthly subscription to total reality avoidance.
Exactly. And Faye is fully immersed in it. The text describes her basically living inside this machine.
She pays the $500 and she is just existing in this artificially joyful state.
Yeah, in the simulation, she's making breakfast, these fluffy pancakes with delectable maple syrup, sizzling sausages.
And she's wandering around outside in a pristine park, gathering dandelions and sunflowers to weave into flower crowns.
Right, humming to herself, her blonde hair is down.
She is aggressively, willfully ignoring the actual physical real world she's sitting in.
While Nick, her partner, is absolutely terrified of it.
He's watching her and feeling this profound mourning.
Because he remembers that the real world, as messy as it is, used to be intriguing to them.
Yeah, and he's scared that if he puts the machine on, if he traverses into that Bliss VR space, he will get trapped. He'll forget how to come back.
He was watching the person he loves completely abandon the friction of reality for a synthetic joy.
And this is where it gets really unsettling for me, because while I was reading about Faye and her little digital flower crown world, I was thinking about that massive dream logic transcript we have.
Oh, the auto hoaxer concept.
Yes, buried deep in those notes. The auto hoaxer. Break that down for me, because the text it seemed like two different ways of defining it, and I want to make sure I'm wrapping my head around it right.
It's a brilliant term. So the text provides two distinct definitions. The original definition, which the author notes was coined by a figure named Tim Osman, describes a very specific kind of modern hypercynicism.
Okay, so what does that look like?
Under this definition, an auto-hoaxer is someone who defaults to fake before true, or guilty before innocent.
Like nothing is real until proven otherwise.
Exactly. They demand absolute, irrefutable proof before they will allow reality to exist. They preemptively hoax reality itself to protect themselves from ever being fooled.
Or worse, from ever being emotionally moved by something.
Right. The text mentions it in certain online communities. These people are often referred to as NPCs, non-playable characters, people who just run a cynical script.
Okay, so that's the first definition, just a wall of cynicism. But the second definition, the one the author calls the self-access definition.
That one is much more personal.
Yeah, that one made me think of Faye immediately.
The self-access definition is about internal deception. It says an auto-hoaxer is someone who performs authenticity while running a hidden script.
It's the ultimate self-deceiver.
Exactly. It's someone who builds a total fiction around themselves, a curated identity, and then works so hard to maintain it that they actually start believing their own performance.
Right. So Faye is literally an auto-hoaxer. She is paying $500 a month to hoax herself.
Yeah.
She is buying the illusion of the perfect pancake breakfast and convincing her own brain that it's the truth. She's keeping her reality totally clean, totally managed with zero dirt.
She is completely terrified of the dirt. And what's remarkable is that if we look at the next piece in the stack, the experimental fiction piece about the therapist, Dr. Eris Thorne.
Oh man, Dr. Thorne.
We see the exact same psychological mechanism. We see a man terrified of the dirt, running a script to keep his room clean.
Let's get into this because the story made me so angry. It's presented as this evolution of writing prompts, starting simple and getting more and more complex.
Right. Dr. Thorne is a high-end therapist, and he has a patient named Leo Vance, who is referred to in the clinical notes as Subject 41.
Subject 41. And Leo comes to therapy to deal with what he vaguely calls pressure.
Yes. And over the course of these heavily documented sessions, Leo confesses to murder.
But he doesn't say it outright, right? He does it entirely through metaphor.
Which forces Dr. Thorne into a terrible position.
Leo talks about this property developer, Marcus Vane, who was going to bulldoze his family's building, and Leo sits there on the couch and tells Dr. Thorne, "You stop a snake by cutting off its head, right? One clean thump."
Yeah, removing a blight.
And then, of course, the actual news confirms that Marcus Vane was bludgeoned to death in his office.
So Dr. Thorne knows, with absolute undeniable clinical certainty, he knows that the man sitting across from him is a killer.
And this is where the auto-hoaxing comes in. Because what does a normal person do? What does an ethical professional do?
You report it.
Exactly. Or at the absolute minimum, you terminate the therapy, get out of the room, and refer him to a forensic specialist. You acknowledge reality.
But Dr. Thorne doesn't do any of that.
No, he protects Leo. Or rather, he protects himself.
And the fascinating part is how he justifies it in his private notes. He uses the sterile, clinical language of his profession to build a wall against the truth.
Yes, he calls his silence containment.
He claims he is maintaining the therapeutic alliance.
It's completely insane. Think about it. It's like a guy who has a massive, gushing, leaky pipe behind the wall in his living room. Water is destroying the foundation of his house.
Right.
And instead of tearing the wall open and fixing the pipe, which is hard, dirty work, he just buys a can of premium white paint and paints over the water damage on the drywall.
And then he pats himself on the back for being an interior designer.
Exactly. That is a perfect way to put it. The clinical vocabulary is his premium paint. Isn't Dr. Thorne just another kind of auto-hoaxer, just like Faye? He is using his own specialized academic vocabulary to build his own $500 a month happiness machine.
He's pretending he's this brilliant, complex healer managing a highly dangerous psychiatric patient.
When in reality, underneath the mask, He's just a coward. He's protecting his reputation, his potential book deal, his comfortable life. He's terrified of the messy, dangerous reality of sitting in a room with a murderer.
He demands the fake over the true because the true would shatter his curated self. If he admits Leo is just a murderer, then Dr. Thorne is just a man who has to go to the police and ruin his career.
Both Faye and Dr. Thorne are obsessively managing their realities to avoid the Burt.
But so what happens when you can't avoid it anymore?
Think about your own life for a second, to anyone listening. How many auto-hoaxer scripts did you run today just to get through a meeting at work or a difficult conversation with your family?
We all do it.
We all try to keep our rooms clean. But what happens when we actually step out of that fake clean room? What happens when we are forced into the room where the dirt actually lives?
To answer that, we have to look at the most profound, reality-breaking inversion in our entire stack of sources, the dream logic transcripts.
Because they propose a radical restructuring of how we understand existence itself.
Usually we think of our waking life as the primary reality. You go to work, you pay taxes, you talk to your friends, that's real.
And sleep is just a biological function, a place where our brains sort through the garbage of the day.
Right. Waking is real, dreaming is fake. That is the fundamental script of human existence.
But the text argues the exact opposite.
It posits that waking life is actually the dream. The waking world with its routines, its carpools, its office politics, what the text vividly calls the drown race, that is the echo.
That is the cheap copy.
Sleep, on the other hand, is the creating chamber. Sleep is the forge. Sleep is where the absolute truth lives. The text even goes so far as to state, quite literally, sleep is God.
Wait, hold on. I need to push back on this a little bit because that sounds like standard late-night dorm room sci-fi Matrix stuff.
Sure.
Are they seriously suggesting that my Tuesday morning commute, in the rain, stuck in traffic, is fundamentally less real than a dream I have about flying over a city or meeting a stranger? How does the text actually justify that, biologically or philosophically?
It justifies it by analyzing the quality of the interactions.
Okay, how so?
In the waking world, the drown race, everyone is running a script. Everyone is an auto-hoaxer wearing a mask, performing their curated self.
Right.
So the interactions are fundamentally hollow because they're based on self-deception. But in sleep, in the creating chamber, the ego is suspended. The scripts are dropped.
And the text backs this up by documenting these incredibly vivid recurring dream figures that the dreamer interacts with.
And these aren't just random, hazy dream symbols. Like, you're not dreaming about a giant talking clock.
The notes make it clear these feel like distinct, autonomous beings.
Yes. The transcripts draw a hard line between mere psychological symbols and what it considers real presences.
The dreamer encounters 3 very specific figures in a space described as the reflected room.
Let's talk about the reflected room, because the text specifically notes that this room is dirtier than the dreamer's waking room. And that detail really stuck with me.
The dirt implies reality. It means it's lived in, it's not curated, it hasn't been painted over by Dr. Thorne's clinical paint or Faye's VR flower crowns.
And who is the first figure we meet in this dirty room?
The redhead girl.
Yeah.
The notes describe her as having the sun-kissed tan. She's very laid back, and there's this one crucial detail. She smiled first.
Why is that detail so crucial to you?
Because in the waking world, the world of the drowned race, everyone is an auto-hoaxer demanding proof.
Right.
If you walk into a room with strangers in real life, everyone is waiting to see what your status is. They're waiting for you to perform.
Yeah.
But the redhead girl just smiles. She doesn't demand proof that you belong there. She just offers immediate, unedited acceptance. She anchors the reality of that dirty room.
Exactly. It's connection without the toll of performance. And then there's the second figure, the guy with glasses.
Dark hair, quiet.
And he does something mechanically remarkable within the dream logic. He actually crosses the threshold. He moves from the dirty, reflected room over into the dreamer's clean room.
But when he gets into the clean room, he doesn't assimilate, right?
No. He deliberately sits on the dirtier of the 2 beds in that room. He brings the subterranean reality of the reflected room with him into the curated space.
And he doesn't speak a single word.
He just sits there, scrolling on his phone, and offers a genuine laugh-smile gesture.
It's intimacy without demand, just the presence of another consciousness that isn't trying to sell you a script.
Yeah.
And honestly, this is where those 2 physical photographs we have on the floor fit so perfectly.
The aesthetic of the photos perfectly matches the tone of the dream text.
Look at this one, the woman on the beach. She's got this wet white tank top pulled up, and you can see the water droplets gleaming on her sun-kissed skin.
And the other photo, where she's pushing up from the vast, completely empty white sand with that incredibly vibrant turquoise water stretching out behind her.
They perfectly capture the visual language the text assigns to these dream figures, particularly characters that are named Bleach and Espresso later in the notes.
It's a very specific golden hour, 1990s California, sun-drenched vibe.
But it's not just about looking cool. It feels nostalgic, but visceral.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a dream about a place you've never actually been to, but when you wake up, you miss it so deeply, your chest physically aches?
Absolutely.
Like it's a memory of a hometown you never lived in, but it feels more profoundly real than the chair you're sitting in right now. That's what these photos feel like.
Yeah.
They are the artifacts of the creating chamber.
And that profound ache you're describing is exactly what the text calls the hollow.
The hollow.
But before we define the hollow, we have to look at the third dream figure, because she represents the exact opposite of the redhead girl and the guy with glasses.
Ah, right, the laundry woman.
The dreamer notes that in waking life, they know this woman and they consider her a non-thinker.
Someone fully absorbed in the drown race.
In the dream, she appears, and she is obsessively trying to do laundry. She only says one word: baskets. She wants the dreamer to help her clean up the room.
But the terrifying part is her spatial awareness.
Yeah.
She faces only the clean mask room. She acts as if the reflected room, the dirty room where the true connection happens, doesn't even exist. She literally cannot perceive it.
She's the ultimate maintainer of the waking illusion. She is trying to wash away the dirt of the real that the guy with glasses brought over.
Wow.
She represents all the auto-hoaxers in our waking world who just want to keep the mask clean, who want to do the laundry, pay the bills, run the script, and completely ignore the profound, terrifying depths right behind them.
Okay, so that brings us to the core mechanism of all this. Why do these deep, semi-lucid dreams happen?
Right.
Why does the creating chamber generate the redhead girl, but also trap the laundry woman? You mentioned the hollow. I felt that word in my chest when I read it.
The hollow isn't just a generic sense of sadness or loneliness. The text defines it specifically as the absence of lucid realizers in the dreamer's waking life.
A lucid realizer being the opposite of an auto-hoaxer.
Yes, an auto-hoaxer defaults to fake before true. A lucid realizer defaults to true before fake.
Right.
It's someone who sees the layers of reality, someone who doesn't demand that you perform your curated self for them.
But because the dreamer's waking world is completely saturated with auto-hoaxers?
Because the drown race is full of NPCs demanding scripts, this massive, agonizing hollow opens up inside them.
And nature abhors a vacuum.
Exactly. So, because the waking world won't provide real connection, the creating chamber of sleep has to generate these real companions. It manifests the redhead girl and the guy with glasses to meet the dreamer inside the hollow.
Think about how heartbreaking, but also incredibly beautiful that is.
It really is.
It's like having a secret family or a secret, deeply intimate tribe entirely in another dimension. You spend your entire waking day completely isolated, surrounded by people at the grocery store and the office running their little scripts, feeling totally alone.
Yeah.
And then you close your eyes, you go to sleep, and these beings are just waiting for you in the reflected room. They smile at you, they sit on your bed, they don't ask you to explain yourself.
It forces us to completely reevaluate the purpose of our waking personas.
Wait, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
If the dream people are the real ones, as the text insists, and the waking world is the fake one, is the mask we wear during the day just a survival tactic?
Yes.
Is the curated self just a shield we hold up so that the auto-hoaxers don't crush that sensitive, empty space before we can get back to sleep and visit our real friends?
That is a staggering, brilliant way to view our daily interactions. The mask isn't a betrayal of who you are. It's a bodyguard for the hollow.
You act fake so the real part of you stays safe.
But holding that heavy fake mask up all day takes a massive toll. It's exhausting.
Yeah, it really is.
And reading these notes, it seems like sometimes the barrier between the waking dream and the creating chamber gets very, very thin. That bodyguard slips.
And that's when the dreamer hits the threshold?
The text calls these threshold moments swolls, spirals.
Spirals, yeah.
It's when the mask glitches for just a second in waking life. A slip of the tongue, a moment of unexplainable déjà vu, a sudden rush of deep, terrifying presence.
The dreamer describes trying to ride that spiral, trying to astral project or completely escape the matrix of the waking world entirely.
But every single time they try to cross fully over stress, they are stopped.
The physical descriptions of this threshold are so intense, it's not just a mental block. The text describes a literal physical tug.
A feeling of wakeful weightlessness.
Yeah, like you're floating but anchored to the floor. And then this thought arrives in the mind not as their own thought, but as a governor, an external command. Almost there, not quite there. SOP.
It's a hard, absolute boundary. But it's not a blank brick wall, it's a doorway.
Right.
And while they are held against that doorway at the threshold, they receive what the text calls downloads. Premonitions, flashes of data from the other side.
The sources detail 2 very specific downloads, and they are wild.
Extremely wild.
The first one was an image of the year 1871, burning fire and people's faces melting in the heat. And the text notes that this specific vision only faded from the dreamer's mind once they watched a video in the waking world about buried history, specifically the Tartaria Vault.
Now, we need to be very precise here.
Definitely.
The source material touches on some highly charged concepts. Tartaria, buried histories, and later it uses terms like poison jacks or J at B when discussing societal compliance.
Right.
As analysts, we aren't here to endorse, debate, or debunk those specific political or historical theories. What's fascinating is how the dreamer uses these concepts mechanically.
Right. For the dreamer, lucidity is the metric, not whether someone aligns with a specific left-wing or right-wing narrative, or whether they've taken a specific medical shot.
Exactly.
Those things are just tests of perception. The Tartaria vision wasn't necessarily a history lesson, it was a mechanism of confirmation.
Yes.
It was the creating chamber saying, the channel is open, I am sending you data that conflicts with the waking script, and you are receiving it.
Precisely. It's about the architecture of perception, not the specific content of the conspiracy.
But the second premonition is far more complex, much more intimate, and completely unresolved.
The tattooed man.
Yeah, it's a recurring, hazy image of a tattooed man. The image is so specific, it feels like a memory.
It's a man in a posture that is somewhat fetal, but he's kneeling.
He's wearing mundane, gray pants, but he has a tattoo on his back that holds 3 massive contradictions all at once. A music note, a right-side-up Christian cross, and an upside-down cross.
The dreamer describes looking at this tattooed man and feeling that he is both profoundly familiar and completely unattainable. Like looking at a mirror placed across an ocean of time.
So, if the channel is open and these downloads are coming through, why does the threshold stop the dreamer from fully crossing over to meet him?
That's the real question.
Why the S.P command every single time? If sleep is God, why not just stay there?
The analysis deep in the text suggests a very compelling, somewhat tragic reason. The Matrix, the waking dream, the drown race, doesn't want to trap the dreamer maliciously.
It isn't a prison guard.
No. It needs the dreamer to be a bridge.
A bridge.
Think about it. If you escape completely, if you just abandon the clean mask room and stay in the creating chamber forever, the bridge collapses.
Oh, wow.
Who is left to perform the waking role? Who is left to protect the hollow during the day?
You can't just leave.
You have to stand in the doorway, let the threshold stop you, mine the creating chamber for these truths and downloads, and then drag them back across the border into the waking world.
And if you need a deep sea diver.
Yeah, exactly.
You can go down into the profound, crushing depths where the weird, glowing truth lives. But you are tethered to a boat on the surface, and the boat is the drown race.
Right.
If you cut the tether, you don't become a creature of the deep. You just drown. You have to hold on to both realities at once.
Exactly. You must maintain grip on both worlds. Which brings us to one of the most bizarre, seemingly out of place, yet absolutely perfect symbols in the entire stack of sources. Mr. Zog's sex wax.
I laughed out loud when I read this part. In the middle of all this high-level philosophy about God and sleep and the y-axis, we get a character profile for Bleach and Espresso, the sun-drenched dream figures, and it mentions this specific mundane object.
Mr. Zog's sex wax.
For anyone who didn't grow up near a beach, this is a cheap, puck-shaped, usually yellow bar of surfboard wax. You keep it in your glove compartment where it's melting on your dashboard or a windowsill.
It's a hyper-specific 1990s California artifact. It smells like coconut and nostalgia.
But why is it structurally important to these deeply philosophical dream entities?
Because of what wax actually does mechanically. Wax provides grip.
It creates friction?
Yes. When you are on a surfboard and the fiberglass is wet and the ocean is violently moving underneath you, trying to throw you off, the wax is the only thing that allows your feet to hold on.
And the text says Bleach and Espresso don't even surf much anymore, but they keep the wax. They keep it just in case.
Just in case. It's a totem. Holding onto the wax is a physical metaphor for holding on to lucidity in the drown race.
Yes. When the waking life gets too slick, when the auto-hoaxers are demanding you run your script, when Dr. Thorne is painting over the drywall with clinical terms, when Faye is offering you a fake VR pancake, you need something to give your mind grip.
Right.
It's like waxing the surface of your memory. Holding on to the wax is like holding on to the memory of the redhead girl's smile, or holding on to the people we lose in real life.
But here is the critical problem the author faces. Holding on to those impossible feelings, those contradictions, like the tattooed man's right side up and upside down crosses existing simultaneously, or the profound reality of a dream figure, is incredibly difficult to communicate.
You can't just explain the wax using standard English.
Standard linear language is designed for the drown race. It's designed for auto-hoaxers to exchange facts.
Right. Standard language is how Dr. Thorne gets away with hiding a murder. Therapeutic alliance is standard language.
Exactly.
So how do you write about the subterranean truth without betraying it?
You have to break the form itself, which is why our sources suddenly shift drastically from philosophical transcripts into these highly experimental narrative writing exercises.
And the core thesis of these experiments seems to be, if you want to tell the truth about the hollow or about profound grief, linear storytelling completely fails.
You have to break the rules of reality on the page.
Let's look at the geometry of us. This piece is literally built entirely on logical impossibilities, but when you read them, they feel emotionally absolute.
The narrator states plainly in the opening, "We buried my father 3 years before he died."
And obviously, biologically, that is impossible.
Right.
But emotionally, when a parent gets a terminal diagnosis or starts fading from dementia, the grief arrives early. It fills the grave long before the body is actually ready to go in.
The mother in the story wears a yellow dress to the funeral, dressed for a sunny day that hasn't happened yet.
The story continues with these aggressive temporal collapses. The narrator remembers being in hospital room 214 at 3:47 p.m., watching their younger sister being born.
But simultaneously, in that exact same sentence, they describe being the infant baby held by the mother in that exact same room.
They described their parents having a double wedding where they were explicitly married and not married at the exact same time.
I have to admit, when I first read that, my brain locked up. It's confusing. It feels like a riddle you can't solve.
Yeah, I felt the same way. But then I realized that's exactly what trauma does to memory.
Yeah.
Trauma doesn't file things neatly in a chronological folder. It collapses the timeline.
It really does.
But the piece that really broke me was the bedside.
The two-column experiment.
Yes. Visually, on the page, the text is split into two parallel columns. You essentially have to read them at the same time or let your eyes dart frantically back and forth between them.
It's disorienting.
On the left side, we are with Elena, the daughter. She is sitting in a sterile hospital room next to her dying father. She hears the mechanical, rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor.
She notices the sickly, yellowed state of his fingernails.
She reaches out, holds his hand, and notes that his skin is cold.
And on the right side of the page, we are inside the consciousness of Henry, the dying father, in that exact same millisecond of time.
But his reality is entirely fundamentally different.
To him, the machine beeping isn't a medical monitor. It's the ticking of the old kitchen clock from his childhood.
He looks at his adult daughter sitting next to him, but he sees the blue sweater he bought her when she was a little girl.
He doesn't feel the cold, sterile hospital room. He is vividly remembering a summer day at the lake.
And when she holds his dying hand, he feels that her skin is vibrantly warm.
The climax of that piece is a masterclass in breaking form to deliver truth. At the very bottom of the page, bridging the two columns, is the exact same phrase, "I let go."
But because of the dual reality we just read, those three words mean two completely different things simultaneously.
For Elena, "I let go" is physical and tragic. She is physically releasing the dead, cold hand of her father after he passes. The tether is severed.
But for Henry, "I let go" is a spiritual release. He is letting go of the shore, letting go of the anchor of the drown race, and stepping into the water of whatever comes next.
The creating chamber. The sleep that is God.
Now, you said earlier that the geometry of us was confusing to read. A lot of critics of experimental fiction argue exactly that. Why intentionally break narrative logic?
Sure.
Why format a page so the reader's eye has to struggle to make sense of the columns? Doesn't it just alienate the audience?
Because grief is not a neat linear story.
Right.
Grief itself is a broken narrative. It doesn't wait politely for the body to die. It doesn't follow a straight line from sadness to acceptance.
It's all over the place.
By breaking the form, by forcing your eyes to dart between two columns, or stating impossible paradoxes as undeniable facts, the author bypasses your logical, auto-hoaxing brain.
They force you to bypass the script.
It's the only way to make you actually feel the swirls, that spiraling intersection of different realities, rather than just reading a dry, clinical description of sadness.
It forces you to grip the text differently. It demands your lucidity,
Yeah.
which perfectly transitions us to the final two stories in this stack. Because if The Bedside breaks the format of the page, these last two stories deal with texts that are literally fading into nothingness.
Let's start with The Last Day. This story operates on a very rigid, specific structural constraint. The author dictated that the first sentence and the last sentence of the story must be identical word for word.
But the journey between them must make the final sentence mean something completely different.
The sentence is, "The first time I brought my daughter to the climbing gym, she clung to my leg like a spider monkey and refused to let go."
At the beginning of the story, that sentence is entirely literal. It's about a 5-year-old child standing at the base of a 40-foot indoor climbing wall. She is physically terrified of the height.
She is clinging to her father's leg because he is her absolute protector. She refuses to let go of him because he is safety.
Then we read the body of the story, and we trace their entire relationship through the years via the climbing gym. We see the little pink chalk bag she started with get replaced by a serious, chalk-stained black one.
We hear about the mother who dips in and out of their lives, leaving the father as the sole constant.
We watch the daughter evolve from a scared kid into a fierce elite youth competitor, and the father's only job, functionally, is to belay her.
To hold the rope.
Exactly, to hold the rope, feed the slack, and, as the text emphasizes, never overcorrect.
But then when she's 17, she takes a bad fall on a complex route. She tears her shoulder labrum. She needs surgery.
She physically loses her identity as a climber, and the father loses his identity as the guy holding the rope.
The story jumps forward. She is 18. She finally returns to the gym. Her body is different now, heavier, more cautious. She's carrying the invisible weight of the injury.
But she clips into the auto-belay system, meaning she doesn't need her father to hold the rope anymore, and she climbs a basic 5.7 route.
And when the mechanical auto-belay catches her at the top and lowers her down, she grins. She survived without him.
And then we hit the final line of the story, the exact same words. "The first time I brought my daughter to the climbing gym, she clung to my leg like a spider monkey and refused to let go."
But now, having read the whole journey, it hits you like a truck.
It's not about a child's physical fear at all anymore.
No. The loop of meaning has closed, but the axis has shifted entirely. The repetition reveals that the sentence was always secretly about the father.
Oh, man.
He was the spider monkey. He was the one clinging to his identity as her indispensable anchor.
He was the one refusing to let go of that role, because without the rope in his hands, without being needed to keep her safe, he didn't know who he was in the drown race.
It's a breathtaking shift in perspective. It's an auto-hoaxer, realizing his script has expired.
And that theme of degrading text, of words failing or shifting meaning, reaches its absolute devastating peak in the final piece of fiction, The Last Letter.
This story is arguably the most ambitious in the stack because it uses a medium that is literally destroying itself on the page to tell the ultimate truth about loss.
It's the story of a mother who has written handwritten letters to her daughter Sarah every single week for 43 years, a massive archive of connection.
But the mother is developing aphasia, a symptom of severe dementia. She's biologically losing her access to language.
And the genius of the story is that the text itself enacts this loss. The letters we read begin to physically break down.
You can track the neurological decay through the syntax. She writes, "I am having trouble with words lately. They are there, and then they are," and the sentence doesn't conclude.
It doesn't offer a period. It just vanishes into the white space of the paper.
The physical details are agonizing. The envelopes change. The handwriting goes from elegant cursive to looking like a frightened child addressed them in block letters.
Sarah visits her mother in the care facility, and she asks her why she keeps trying to write the letters when it's clearly causing her so much frustration and pain.
And the mother's answer, she says she needs to have proof of what she is losing.
She knows the hollow is coming for her mine, and the letters are a record of the reaching. They are her Mr. Zog's sex wax. They are her grip.
But the degradation accelerates. The paragraphs turn into single, isolated sentences. Then the sentences break down into just lists of nouns. Lake, peonies, sun.
The structure of the waking world is burning away. But the emotional payload of the story arrives in the final letter, which is delivered after the mother has actually passed away.
It contains only the words that were strong enough to survive the absolute decay of her mind.
The complex vocabulary is gone, the grammar is gone. All that is left on the page is, I love you, I love you, I love you.
And a fragmented memory of teaching Sarah how to swim at the lake when she was little.
The final piece of advice, the absolute core truth remaining when everything else is stripped away is, you just have to keep getting in the water.
Keep getting in the water. It is profound. And if we take that idea, the vanishing words, the stripping away of all complex structures, the surrender to the water, and connect it back to the deepest, most difficult philosophical point in our dream transcripts.
We hit the absolute bottom of today's deep dive.
Right. We have to go past the waking world, past the sleep world, even past the creating chamber itself.
Deep in those spiraling notes, the transcript mentions an ultimate state of being. It calls it rest from rest.
The dreamer describes this state as going past the observer. Now, to understand this, think about the mechanics of consciousness.
Okay.
Even when you're in a deep, lucid dream and you know you are dreaming, there is still an I watching the dream happen. There is an internal narrator. There is still an observer.
But what happens when the words are entirely gone, like mother's letters? What happens when you drop the observer? Who are you when you stop watching yourself?
The text explains that when you drop the observer, you finally drop what it calls the y-axis.
Let's unpack the y-axis.
The y-axis is the vertical line on a graph. It represents climbing, striving, measuring. We spend our entire waking lives and often our dreaming lives on the y-axis.
We are moving up and down.
We are training. We are repeating habits. We are worrying about our reputation at work. We are constantly asking why and what's next.
We are always trying to get somewhere.
Even in spiritual or meditative practices, people turn it into a y-axis. They try to achieve enlightenment. They try to master lucid dreaming.
It's like we're all playing a video game. We are obsessively staring at the screen, mashing the buttons, entirely focused on getting a high score. The high score is the y-axis. And rest from rest is the terrifying, liberating realization that you don't just have to pause the game. You can literally just put the controller down on the floor, stand up, and walk away from the television entirely.
That is exactly it. You walk away from the television.
Yeah.
And when you drop all of that, when the letters fade to white space and the curated mask finally falls all the way off the hall, the text says the threshold grates you.
I love that phrasing. Not greets you. Grates you.
It becomes great by your absence. You don't have to force your way across the border anymore. You don't have to fight the tug or read the downloads.
You just stop trying to cross.
You step into the reflected room, you sit down on the dirtier of the two beds, and you just rest. But it's not resting to recover your energy so you can go back to work the next day. It is rest from the very concept of resting.
It's the ultimate stillness. The hollow isn't an agonizing vacuum waiting to be filled by dream figures anymore. It just is. It is complete.
Looking at all these pieces of paper spread out on the rug right now, it's incredible how these seemingly completely disconnected sources weave together so perfectly to describe the same human condition.
They really do. You have the tragic modern irony of Faye paying $500 a month to run a script and hide from reality in a VR happiness machine.
You have the quiet, profound bravery of the guy with the glasses, crossing over the threshold into the clean room just to sit on the dirty bed and offer a smile without demanding a word in return.
You have the father and daughter holding the rope, tethered to each other at the climbing gym, terrified to let go of their roles.
And you have those handwritten letters bravely fading into nothingness to leave only the absolute truth of love behind.
They are all expressions of the exact same exhausting human struggle. The desperate attempt to figure out what is actually real in a world completely populated by auto-hoaxers.
And finding the immense, almost impossible courage required to let go of what isn't, to drop the wax, to drop the controller.
It makes you look at everything differently. So, if sleep is where the truth actually is forged, and this waking world, this room we are in right now, is just an echo.
Yeah.
And if even the observer inside your head, that little voice you think of as you, is just another mask you wear while you climb the y-axis, I want to leave you with a thought.
Who is listening?
Exactly. Who exactly is listening to our voices right now? In a few moments, when you take off your headphones or turn off your car, when our voices stop and the audio fades out and the silence of your real life rushes back into your room, who is left sitting there in the quiet?